So Benji went out to issue a disclaimer because there were all these crazy rumors that Israel might have had something to do with Charlie Kirk's tragic assassination.
Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister,
Of course,
said that the bigger the lie, the faster it will spread. Well, somebody has fabricated a monstrous big lie that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific murder. This is insane. It is false. It is outrageous. Charlie Kirk was a giant, a once-in-a-century talent who defended freedom, defended America, defended our common Judeo-Christian civilization. Charlie loved Israel. He loved the Jewish people. He told me so in a letter that he sent me just a few months ago. One of my greatest joys as a Christian, he said, is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. He encouraged me to make the case directly to the American people about how vital Israel is to U.S. national security. He told me, the Holy Land is so important to my life, it pains me to see support for Israel slip away. Now, if Charlie disagreed with a policy of mine or a decision here and there, not only did I not mind, I welcomed it. This is the essence of Charlie. This is the essence of a free country. It's exactly what Charlie stood for. And I knew that his suggestions always came from the heart.
Your country
and his love for Israel.
I gotta ask, have you ever once seen any Zionist welcome disagreement, much less Netanyahu? Have you ever seen a Zionist, a true dedicated, I don't mean just generally vaguely supports the state of Israel. I mean like a Zionist say, yes, well, we can agree to disagree. Have you ever seen that? Or did they go right to where he started? Goebbels!
Well, look, we have a segment that we will hopefully get to today. My kid has a long doctor's appointment, so we can't do the full 3 hours today, but we'll get to it Sunday if we don't. Their minister of sports and culture just defunded the Israeli Oscars because the winning film was sympathetic to the Palestinian perspective. Right. That's what a democracy they are.
Yes.
That if an Israeli makes a movie sympathetic to the Palestinians and that movie does well, the institutions that reward it get defunded. That's how much they welcome this agreement.
Yes, the idea that I have never, especially post-October 7th, I cannot think of a single case where a Zionist didn't go to the maximalist, you're an anti-Semite Nazi argument at any disagreement.
Right, yeah.
And from his love for the Jewish people. A few weeks before his death, I spoke to Charlie. I invited him to visit Israel again. Sadly.
Yeah, we heard about that.
Now some are peddling these disgusting rumors, perhaps out of obsession, perhaps with Qatari funding. What I do know
Tucker
is
again
this.
On the brain.
Charlie Kirk was a great man, and a great man deserves honor, not lies. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. May your memory be a blessing.
Okay, so Jake Shields. I also didn't kill Charlie Kirk, but I don't feel the need to make a video telling you this.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, methinks the lady doth protest too much. Jackson Hinkle. Charlie rejected your request that he come visit Israel. He also rejected your funding offer, which would have silenced him.
Yep.
Why are you lying again about this?
Yep.
And Tucker Carlson did an interview with Megyn Kelly where they both once again reinforced the story that all of Charlie's friends seem to be telling. You know who's not telling that story? People in Turning Points USA who need this Zionist money to keep coming in to keep their jobs. A lot of them are not backing up this story and are going along with Bill Ackman. But people who were close with Charlie, who have no financial incentive to lie about it, they've all been telling pretty much the same story, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz. But here's Tucker
Roger
and Megyn
Stone.
Kelly.
Roger about a guy Stone. Who has no reason to make that up. Yeah.
Right.
And for Benjamin Netanyahu, who really tormented Charlie, we talked about it many times. He tormented Charlie, and his advocates tormented Charlie. For him to run around saying that Charlie died for Israel is just too much. It's just disgusting. And as his friend,
no,
I feel morally
that
bound to say
statement
that.
was out of line. No, I agree with you. And I'd never talk about Bibi Netanyahu. I don't really, I don't think much about him. I just don't. I had the opportunity to interview him a couple months ago, and I declined. I'm just not. No, I just don't want to. I didn't want to platform him. I didn't actually, frankly, want to do all the work that I would have to do to sufficiently interview him in a way that would be, tough, as I do when I have any foreign leader in my crosshairs. I just wasn't interested. Whatever. For him to do what he did was wrong. It was a moral wrong to sit out there and read part of Charlie's letter and try to have the final say on Charlie's pronunciations about Israel. And he knew that they weren't the full story. And he's a foreign leader. He's not an American leader. So how dare he? At best, you come out there, you say, I'm so sorry for this loss. My prayers to his family. That's it. He was out of line, Tucker. And I, as not even a Netanyahu critic, saw it very clearly and talked about it today on the show, too.
Can I ask you about next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. This is all backfiring, really, as all of their propaganda is these days. What do you want to say?
No, I was just going to say, what reason does Megyn Kelly have to lie about that? One of them is clearly lying, right?
Right.
So you have to ask, okay, who is more incentivized? First of all, who's got a bigger reputation as a liar? The Israelis are number one in that department, bar none. And then you ask, okay, what is in it for Megyn Kelly to make that up?
Right.
Nothing.
Right. Or
Nothing.
Tucker Carlson.
Or Tucker. Yeah.
Or Matt Gaetz, or, as you say, Roger
Stone, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Nothing is in it for any of these people to make this shit up.
Right. So here's Candace Owens, and this kind of goes into the second part of this, both pointing out the pressure that Charlie was under, and also Key Bono, who benefits.
I'm being contacted by a lot of people that are telling me that just within 48 hours before Charlie passed away, his top Jewish donors were pulling funding from him, demanding that Charlie take their name off of the building that they had donated to Turning Point. I guess I can figure out who that is, how many people could have donated a building. And then once Charlie was killed, they said, never mind, put it back on the building. Okay. Charlie himself had alluded to a tremendous loss of money coming in. And we'll speak about that more. More people are going to come out with information. This is all inevitable. Okay. And I'll also point you in this direction. You guys remember Bibi recently was on a PR blitz, despite the fact that he was, fighting this 96,000 front war because Israel didn't do nothing. Okay. He was doing a ton of podcasts in America. He went on to Patrick Bet-David's podcast. He went on to Brandon Tatum's podcast. He went on to the Nelk Boys podcast. Anybody find it weird he didn't do Charlie Kirk's show?
It's a good point.
Comey very quickly told us that Charlie was penning love letters to him in May.
Yeah, that's true.
I just love you so much. Yeah. It's amazing. They were so close. Yeah. The boys just hits him up like, hey, I know we're fighting this 97,000 front war because we're always the victims, but do you want to just come and maybe stay at my place for the weekend here in Israel? Like, that's the vibe that Bibi was rushing to present to the media. So why didn't he do Charlie Kirk's show? I'll leave it as a question for you guys. Common sense, okay? I don't like small lies. And remember, Bibi started this. I am responding to his shamelessness, shameless misrepresentation of what Charlie was going through and what Charlie was saying. Because, and I want to be clear, to me right now, it feels, and I'm using a corporate term here, a bit like a hostile takeover, okay? Charlie builds the company organically on the basis of Charlie and Charlie's honest ideas. Suddenly, that company's got a lot of money, and Charlie's honest ideas are starting to change or maybe add more color. And now he's getting financial threats. He's being called names. He increasingly, he's being told who and what he's allowed to speak to, and he's taking a stance. He's taking a stand privately up to these people, and then it doesn't matter anymore because Charlie's dead, and those very same people who were pressing him are now doing, like, very quickly trying to set in stone that, Charlie, essentially the energy is Charlie died for Israel. He's just one of us. Nobody ask any more questions. That is literally untrue, and we're not going to allow it. Okay? It's just not true.
Okay, so hostile takeover. She talks about people who are trying to exploit his death to pretend that his position on Israel was very different from what it was, according to his friends. So Key Bono, who benefits? The shadow of Ezra. Ben Shapiro has stepped in as a co-host of the Charlie Kirk Show alongside Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles, all of whom are supporters of Israel. His move comes just days after Charlie Kirk's assassination, with Shapiro vowing to pick up the blood-stained microphone where Charlie left it. So let's take a look at that.
And of course, they need no introduction. That would be, in no particular order from my right to left, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, and Ben Shapiro. And I want to explain how this even happened. Obviously, we had the Vice President of the United States honor Charlie by guest hosting the show from the White House yesterday. I was just in D.C. yesterday for that, and it was an amazing experience. I've gotten so much great feedback, and of course, we are so honored that JD wanted to take time, from running the country and leading the world to help honor his friend.
Pulling comedians off TV stations. Lauren Witzke. It's a setup. Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire donates $1 million to Turning Point USA to help bring people back to Christ and bring people back to church and back to biblical values as Charlie wanted. This sounds good, but the truth is, this is money spent to enforce Christian Zionism and loyalty to Israeli interests. Remember, there's reporting that Charlie was in the process of becoming a Catholic. I don't care what you say. Anyone who gives an organization $1 million becomes an influential part of the organization. Also, it's very strange that the Daily Wire was able to cough up $1 million to give to Turning Points USA when they themselves were shutting down departments and laying off people just a couple months ago due to financial challenges. Where did this $1 million really come from? We covered that story. Daily Wire was going bankrupt. People were getting fired. They were getting rid of staff. That's a very good question. Where did they get $1 million extra for a company going bankrupt to donate to Turning Point USA? And you would think, with all the controversy around Charlie's views right now around Israel, you would think Turning Points USA would not put the Daily Wire crew up as guest hosts on that program, unless you got $1 million from these guys. Then you're going to put them on, right? Now, Matt Walsh, there's a good example of why I would argue you can't really trust most commentators. Most commentators are not honest. They're not honest. They're not telling you the truth. Here's Matt Walsh blithely reinforcing the narrative that clearly the administration wants and clearly that the Israelis want. Radical leftists are the greatest domestic terror threat we face. They killed Charlie. They will kill many more if they can. They want us dead, and they're very clear about it. The media is trying to run cover for them and let them off the hook. The right must not help them in that effort. That would be a huge mistake. One of the worst mistakes I've ever seen conservatives make. So here you see a guy like Matt Walsh kind of feigns independence, but when the rubber hits the road, when the shit hits the fan, when they need him to reinforce a narrative, he uses the credibility that he's built up in the space to try to direct the energy in the direction they want it to go in. He, as far as I know, he hasn't even addressed the controversy around Netanyahu, around Israel. All he's been hammering is trans, leftist, go to war, executions. That's it. That's all he's been doing.
Literally, he advocated for executions. Yeah.
No, literally. I'm not being hyperbolic. He literally did. Nick Sorter, who I trust because of Sodagate as an honest actor in the space. I hope I'm right about that. Says here, not in response to Walsh, to be clear, in a different context. Unfortunately, the majority of big influencers are patriots, P-A-Y, not patriots. Indeed. And this was actually a meme that someone responded to Matt Walsh with. Your favorite influencers, Scooby-Doo. Let's see who this really is. Pulls the hood off, billionaire globalists. Yeah, man, it's they control the entire political spectrum that you might think is there in the commentariat. You think there's a right-left thing going on. Nah, man. There's one party, the Green Party, the Green Money Party, and it owns most of the people in the space. And their job, it's a big panopticon, is to keep you fighting over nonsense and to keep you distracted. Why would the Daily Wire crew in the middle of all this, when you've got Candace, you got Marjorie Taylor Greene, you got Tucker, all talking about this, why of all people would they put the Daily Wire people on there? And probably the person who has the most credibility out of that crew that people don't so strongly identify with Israel is Matt Walsh. And that's why, if you notice, he's the one they're using to really try to direct the energy against leftists and trans people, right? That's his job there. Why do you think people always say, oh, Matt Walsh is going to get fired? No, man, that's why they don't fire him, because at this moment, they need him to push that agenda.
Yes. And, there's just obviously so much of this that just looks really bad. And I'll incorporate this into the segment here because it's a super chat. Charlie was killed by the boyfriend of a furry trans wokie. Don't lie. Look, I said this on Jimmy's show last night. Maybe you're new here. I'd condemn the murder no matter who did it for what reason. Doesn't matter to me. I condemn it just as loud either way. Also, as I mentioned on Jimmy's show last night, my politics are not Trump's politics. I never voted for him. I also never really voted against him. I didn't vote for any of his three Democratic opponents. So, look, if whatever the truth is, I condemn the murder either way. I don't have an axe to grind here in terms of no, it can't be this.
Oh,
so
yeah,
we have to
yeah,
make
yeah.
it that.
Yeah, no.
But I mean, I don't know how much you followed about this, but the text exchange that they concocted, that they say they reproduced, nobody's buying that. Steve Bannon isn't buying that. Okay, Matt Walsh isn't buying that. Matt Walsh thinks it was scripted, but for a different reason. He thinks it was scripted to protect the trans lover.
Right. Yeah.
But both of them think it was hardly anybody believes in the authenticity of that. You have Kash Patel saying, well, there was a note that existed. We never found it, but we were able to determine through aggressive interview posture what it said. Nothing they're saying makes sense.
If you believe the narrative that they're putting out, I got a bridge to sell you. Whatever it is.
Exactly.
We don't know what happened, but we know what they're saying happened is not what happened.
Yeah, exactly.